Greetings. On this week's episode, I get to interview my dad, and it's super cool. Check it out. Theme music! Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and with me is also
Tom Earl.
You get two for the price of one today. As you might have guessed, this is my dad. Is this true?
It's true. And this is my son.
Yes. My dad's here visiting in LA, so we thought we'd go ahead and take this chance to interview. He was begging for the opportunity, so I said, fine, you can be on the show. Right? Is that how it went?
Very close, yes.
So, what's it like being Tom Earl's dad?
Being your father
Yeah.
is a privilege.
I appreciate that.
I'm a person of few words.
Why did I start playing hockey?
The honest truth, his mother said, I can't take this kid anymore. He's driving me nuts. Here, he's yours. I said, okay, fine. And took him down to Pettit and signed him up for hockey.
What did you see me being changed or influenced at all by playing hockey?
I thought it was very important that a person learn how to ice skate if you're from the Midwest. And I thought it very important that you learn a skill, hockey skill, sports skill, that you can play the rest of your life. Tom is not of NBA or NHL or any other size that he could do anything professionally other than being who he is. So I picked hockey. It was a lot of energy, a lot of dedication, a lot of skill, and a lot of fun. And it burned up that unbelievable amount of ambition that he had. That was put very politely, by the way.
I like how you said ambition. Oh, that's awesome. You used to tell me that something about the older you get, the less people are there playing hockey. You know, like the older you get, the less people, but the more dedicated. You know what I mean? You remember that?
Of course.
What is that?
It's funny how he picks out the things like that.
What do you mean?
In life, okay, folks, in life, if you stick to it, there are going to be many that don't have the dedication and the ambition and the drive that you have. They may have been way more skilled. They could have been way better hockey players, better baseball players, better anything. But other things distracted them and they left. If you stayed with it, you're going to win.
What was something for you that you stuck with like that and won?
Being a dad
What do you mean?
means I have lots of kids and I've stuck with every one of them.
That's awesome. So nowadays, you know, everybody talks about being the entrepreneur, starting your own business is the new rock star.
Is it?
Yeah. Now it's the coolest thing. Everybody, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. What was it like when you started your business? Was it like that?
No.
What was it like? What was when you would tell people you're starting your business, or what was the feeling of the times then for starting a business?
Ladies and gentlemen, it was desperation.
What do you mean?
I had to feed a child and myself, and I didn't have a job. And
So how'd you pick landscaping?
I didn't. It picked me.
Like the mop.
I was freshly back from Vietnam and a single father raising a beautiful daughter. And I worked for an airline which had a lot of labor disputes. And in the state of Wisconsin, if you were laid off due to a labor dispute other than the labor union that you were in, you were ineligible for unemployment. So the one union for Northwest Airlines went on strike. I was laid off, and broke.
Mm.
So I tried to become a dump truck driver. I tried to become anything that I could think of that I could find in the advertisements for labor in the newspaper. There wasn't anything that I could qualify for, so I saw an ad for laying sod. I called the guy up, said, I'd like the job. He said, it's yours. I showed up on the job, and I was the only one there, and the semi pulled up, and they said, go ahead, unload it, and lay this sod. There was no one there to teach me. There was no one there to mentor me. Just figure it out, Tom, and I did. I did 2 buildings with this gentleman, and a guy across the street walked up to me and said, are you a landscaper? And I said, absolutely.
And so it was born. Where did the artistic side come from? Where did you start to discover that I can draw, I can envision something, draw it, and bring it to life?
It's in my family. My father, his passion was to write, and my mother's passion was art. My grandfather was a photographer during the Depression. My uncle worked with photography, so I wasn't surprised that it was a natural thing that just I have in me.
Mm. What's a job that you think of that you designed something that went really out of your comfort zone, but it just was such an awesome reward?
To go backwards though to the last question,
yeah,
I would have to thank some teacher in high school that taught me first mechanical drawing and then architectural drawing, and then there was another teacher that I had in art class that helped bring out some of the abilities.
So you had some classes in high school
Mm-hmm.
that helped you start to draw?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? So you're laying sod, and then this guy says you want a landscape. So then did you draw a design for him, and was that the next step? When did it start that, okay, now I'm going to start to design it? When did which part of the journey did that come in?
I wish I could have some really, really cool answer to that. I don't have a clue.
That's the best. That's how it always seems to work, though. You just figure it out, and then one day you realize you're doing something.
I think somebody bought me a drafting board, and I don't remember who. Someone bought me a drafting board, and I started to draw.
Mm.
But I don't remember who bought that.
Okay, I got you. What was one of the coolest jobs you did?
When?
Ever? One that comes to mind.
They're all cool. I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite style. I like helping people, and I can see things. I have an imagination. I have the ability to take no for an answer and come up with another idea quickly. I don't have a favorite.
Can that be taught?
What?
Where you just said you can take no for an answer and come up with some other, imagine something else that they might like. Can you teach something like that?
Well, it depends how much humility you have. That someone can take your best idea that you think there is and say, I don't like that, and be able to recover from that quickly and say, well, I have 4 more ideas. How about this one?
Rather than taking it personal or something like that?
I suppose.
And being like, this is the idea, it has to be like this. What about, today when we were working together putting up the TV? I see some people, just the other day on Facebook, it showed some guy trying to put a screen door on, and he couldn't get it, so he ripped the door off and smashed it and got all mad. Instead of getting mad, you get like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna finish it. Where does something like that come from?
I have no clue. I suppose getting paid, because if you didn't hang the TV or if you didn't finish the job, they aren't going to pay you. It's pretty simple, Tom, and you know darn well. I understand that you're trying to get folks to be inspired by something I might say, but it really isn't that hard. It really isn't that big a deal. You just have to stick to it. Once you're after it, you just can't quit.
Mm. But why do some people quit?
Probably they're scared. Scared of failure.
And you're not?
No, I'm not afraid of anything.
Have you always been like that?
You bet.
That's awesome. Were you just born unafraid of failure, unafraid? Or did you have to earn it somewhere along the way?
Describe failure, Tom.
When you give up and don't get back up.
Is failure a thing that is judged by others or by yourself?
Mm. By yourself.
Then don't give up.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Where does that, I get that you say you just have it, but can you think of any decisions along the way in your life or somewhere where you made the decision, I'm going to be that kind of person?
This is really stumping you, isn't it?
Does it seem like it?
Yeah. You just can't get there.
I feel like we're there.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ambition is everything, and pride and all the things that you're taught all through your life, through school, through religion, through others, through peers, through heroes, through Popeye the Sailor Man. I mean, it doesn't matter where you learn it. It's like back to the hockey thing. If you stick to it, you're going to win.
That's awesome.
What's winning?
Mm.
Don't answer that. Just keep that out there.
Mm.
What's winning?
Mm. I like that. Hmm. What advice would you have for people then who are looking to start businesses, that they have the desire to own their own business and to be an entrepreneur? What advice do you have for that?
I was walking through a field the other day of trees that I planted 35 years ago, trying to decide which ones to harvest. And I was with my stepson, Robbie. And I said, you know what this is, Robbie? Look around. I said, this is years of mistakes. I thought, wow, let's plant birch trees. Oh, no, we should plant redbud. Oh, no, we should do this. And here was this absolute disaster of plants in the field. And I said, had I been smart, I would have figured this out to the penny. I would have said, you know what, if I plant X amount of trees for this amount of money, in X amount of years, I can harvest them, become the richest man in the world. But I didn't. I just went out and planted trees and went out and did this and did that. And all my mistakes were laid out in front of me. And he said, what's wrong with that? And I said, well, I'm not a millionaire. And he said, well, you're pretty successful. I said, well, I guess, but it's really frustrating. So, what advice do I have for someone? Follow your passion.
Hmm. And how do you experience what passion is? What's the difference between a passion and a whim?
I think that's pretty light to say that a passion could be compared to a whim.
What's the difference?
Oh, what is the difference?
What about for you? How can you tell the difference when you're going through life?
I don't do whims. I only do passion.
Is this something you feel in your body? You're like, yeah!
Yes.
What for you is the difference between a leader and a follower?
Between a leader and a follower? Holy cow. I don't know. I've never followed. Well, a leader respects those that he's leading. A leader... Al Stazak was a foreman back at the airport, and I'm a young man, just fresh out of the service, and got this job at Northwest. And it's hard to imagine what I'm looking at, but it's a ramp full of baggage carts. I'm sure if you've ever flown, you look out the window and you see baggage carts, and you know that those things are going to go into an airplane, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were fogged in Milwaukee, and we were fogged in Chicago, and there were all these airplanes flying up in the air just dying to land. So the operations department kept saying, okay, this plane is going to gate 2. Oh, no, I changed my mind. Now I want it to go to gate 4. And this was the rambunction that was going on. Now imagine a ready room, or a room full of men and women that were going to load all these things onto an airplane, but they had nothing to do because of the fog. Well, they made this gate change, and the boss went outside and grabbed a hold of the cart and had to pull it up this slight hill, and this cart was filled with bags. And he was pulling it behind his back, and he's just a short little German old man pulling this thing. And this very suave person of the name of Gordy Schrader, he was the kind of guy that smoked a pipe. His hair was always perfect, but he was a labor guy that loaded bags. He just was who he was. Looked out the window and said, look at that idiot out there pulling that by himself. What an idiot. And he went and sat back down. And I said to myself, that's ridiculous. And I ran out the door, got behind the cart, and helped Al pull it up. Walked back in and looked at all those guys. They kind of smirking at Al, laughing at him. That's the boss. And I said to myself, Self, when I become boss, the last person that's going to go out and pull that cart is not going to be me. It's going to be all those guys sitting on that couch. They're going to be out there working. However, once they're all out there working and working hard, I'll be darned if I'm going to be sitting on the couch. I'll be right out there with them.
Mm.
So there's a difference there, right?
Yeah.
The boss does not have to do everything. He can't be everything. He can't do the things that his employees, that the people he's leading are supposed to be doing. They need to do that. And the boss needs to make sure they have all the tools, all the energy, all the support, everything that you can give to them. And when they're absolutely exhausted, you better be out there helping them.
Mm. That's awesome.
Did that make sense?
It did. Yeah. I mean, it's a story you told me when I was younger, and it sticks with me in my mind.
Good.
You know?
Good.
So I know, because I know your story, but when you were at Northwest, that you had a type of job where people would say you're covered for life, you're going to get a pension, you have great insurance, to go from that to jumping into the unknown of starting your own business. So people who I know have come to you and asked you along the way where they say, I'm in that situation too, where I have this job where it's great insurance, great pay, but I am not feeling the passion you're talking about. So I'm thinking of jumping into the unknown, of exploring my passion by starting a business or something like that. Can you explain to me, maybe your thought process or any advice for people like that who are in a situation like that?
Absolutely not. Don't do it. Run. Take the pension. Hang it up. Just spend the rest of your life miserable. Do not go into business. There's no profit. You're going to work more hours than anybody else. You're going to have less people saying you're doing a good job. It's miserable. Just stay in that old crummy job where you can't stand it and you're so envious of all those guys out there doing it on their own. Just do that crummy, boring job. I remember I used to come in a little early and I could do my job at the airport in 11 minutes. I could figure out what everybody was supposed to do, and it was it. I was done. As long as everybody did their job, I was totally bored. So I would do things like take an out of order sign and put it on the soda machine so that when the guys came in, they'd say, "Oh, the machine's out of order," and then they'd have to get a cup of coffee, Can you imagine wanting a Coke, having to get a cup of coffee? That's the things I was doing. I said, Self, you got to get out of here. So I left.
Oh, I didn't look back.
Never.
That's awesome. What about?
Are you starting to get worried about where you came from?
No, I think that for a lot of people, it's probably making absolute sense. You know, a lot of people ask me, why do I care so much about, you know, making the world a better place, or working with people who are different than me, or caring about diversity. And so I think to stories from my childhood, and I know that you had an influence on that. Why do you think that I care? Or why do you think that versus a lot of other kids maybe from a small farm town that are a little more, you know, not knowing? What do you think the difference is? What influence do you think you had on that?
I don't quite understand what you're asking me, honestly.
Okay, so, you know, a lot of kids, you know, maybe where I grew up, they're afraid of people who are different, like maybe somebody who's black or somebody who's Mexican. But I grew up to instead chose a different path where, you know, my major is Black Studies. My life is dedicated to creating a better world and through diversity and stuff like that. What influence do you think you had on that? On me having a more broader world outlook on the world, a more diverse and more open and welcoming, rather than, if you don't look like me, I don't like you.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, he's trying to give me credit for the incredible person he's become, and I'm pretty appreciative of where he's going with this. I'm not prejudiced, never have been. I judge people by their eyes. You know, I look in their eyes, and I can see that they're real. And if they're real, that's all I need. If I look in their eyes and they look away, or I don't have time for them, they have to have it like I have it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can say is a very good friend of mine, and Mexican man by the name of Kiko. And Kiko, I know you're still out there because you just said hello the other day. I hired him. He was an employee of mine, one of the most kindest men in the world. And I said, Kiko, I got to get my house painted. Would you mind painting my house? I know you're very good at it. Oh, he said, I'd love to. And his English wasn't great. In fact, it was poor. But, you know, we didn't really need to speak the same language. We got it. So I hired him to paint my house. And Tom was a very young man. Tom was a child. And Kiko was come out there in the summertime. The windows would all be open on the house. And while he was painting, he would sing. Not in English, but in Spanish. And I'd come home at night, and the kids would be singing the songs that Kiko was singing in Spanish. And I think that's where they learned that it's okay to be different.
And I remember we'd go to a pizza spot, and the owner of that was gay, and he used to talk about how you got into a fight to have his back. And I think of stories like that where you talk about, or people would say something and you'd call them out on it. I think, thinking back on my life, that those had an impact on me. So I do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
What about, I noticed later in life, or maybe I just never noticed, that reading, and, you know, you used to read every morning, either the paper or books or the Bible or something before going to work. What impact or influence of your life do you think reading has had?
Well, there's a big difference between reading a book and reading the Bible. What are you asking?
Have you noticed that books or reading every day has had any impact or influences the way you view the world or life?
I try to read the Bible every day. I think I started, I think this is like the 10th time I'm trying to get through it. The first 4 or 5 times was easy. Now I can hardly get through it. I don't have the, I just don't have the call to go back. This year, Julie asked me, go back and read the Bible. You're a better person when you do. So I have been trying to read the Bible. Reading the Bible helps you understand that someone thousands of years ago had the same issues and problems and thoughts and I mean, it was a lot different than we are today, but they were the same. They had the same problems. So, reading the Bible is very good for me. It makes me stronger, and it makes me humble. Other books, if I have the time, I can devour a book in a day, but I have to be in the mood. Otherwise, I can't read. And I can't read instructions. If you hand me an instruction manual, I can't read it. I cannot focus on an instruction manual. I'll hand it to somebody else and say, what does it say? Tell me what to do.
What do you think, to take into consideration the intelligence that you have and the creativity that you have, how can a teacher be more understanding of when a student like you is in the classroom?
I'm intelligent. That's pretty scary. What now? Do it again.
Because you told me, when you're in class, you were dreaming, you were envisioning. So maybe, on the report card, it didn't necessarily reflect the intelligence and creativity that you have. And you were saying instruction manuals, it's not your way, you like exploring it. So I think there's a lot of young kids out there who are in the education system that fit that the standard school isn't reaching them. But it's not that they're dumb. It's not that they don't have any future. But we start to make it look like that's what they have. But they could be the future founder of a landscaping business. You know what I mean? How can people reach young people like that? Or how can we still provide them opportunities to learn?
Holy cow. That's a tough one, Tom. I don't know how to answer that. I know that the standard education that was offered to me in 1966, okay, that's a long time ago, was formatted. It was a format. You walked into class and opened the book, and there it was. And they had windows, and I would look out the window, and next thing I know, the class was over, and I'd go, oh, wow, what did they talk about? Never heard a word. Never heard a word. But I dreamt. I can dream, I can imagine, I just couldn't. Hi, Julie. I just couldn't do it in a formatted school. I couldn't do it. I didn't answer your question. I don't know how.
How we doing on time?
Whenever.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
You can hang out.
Okay. How much longer, Adora?
Oh, okay.
15 minutes.
What's it like having a son who dyes his hair purple one day, and then pink the other, and then only eats bananas, and then he's Muslim, and he's in Florida, and how are you able to, a lot of parents can sometimes take that kind of stuff personal, but you never seem to take it personal. You only had 1 or 2 rules that I couldn't wear shirts of this or that. How are you able to be a parent that just trusted me and supported me and let me go through all those different phases and discover my own truths like that?
You're on your own with that one.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with a person being their own person? If they're not breaking rules that are hurting others. My father told me that I needed to be my own man. And he instilled that in me. And I had no fear of that. I am my own man. I'm okay in my own skin. I am what I am. Popeye the Sailor Man, by the way. And Tom was his own man from the beginning. And he heard a different drum. He looked at things different than others, but what's wrong with that? Was I supposed to force him into going down this road and then he would despise me the rest of his life or not talk to me or not connect with me? Why would I do that to you? Why would I do that? Why would I all your questions were about my courage and my creativity. Why would I take that away from you? Why would I do that? There's no reason in the world that I would do that to you, ever. I was here to keep you on a path as your father, not to let you do something that you would be so regretful of that you would hate yourself. I tried to prevent those things, but I never tried to. I mean, of course there are a few times. There was a time you came to me and said, I'm going to get married. And I was like, whoa, Tom, think about this. I didn't say no. I just said, think about it. Just think about it. I did do one thing one time that probably he doesn't want me to tell, and that is when he was in college, he got caught selling some pot. And Julie and I went to the DA and said, I don't want him getting fined. I don't want this, but do be hard on him. And they put him on probation, and I was damn glad they did. And that was my fault. I did direct that, and when it was over with, what's it called? Expunged or what?
Expunged, yeah.
I went back and said, okay, he did his thing. He was a good man. He honorably took his punishment. Now get it off his record, and they did. But did that not teach you a lesson?
Well, it's funny because the chronologically, the order that these episodes are coming out, last week was my birthday episode. And I tell that same exact story.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I told them, I said, well, my 18th birthday was in the barn, and one group of my friends pulled knives on the other group of my friends. That was my 18th. And then my 19th, I said to my dad, we were taking Evelyn home. And I said, I got caught selling weed, and it's felony. And I'll never forget, we were all sitting around with Evelyn, blowing out the candles and seeing all the love in everybody's faces and knowing that I have to tell you this. You know what I mean? I never wanted to feel that again. You know?
Well, you did a good job. I remember that, and I didn't know that you had that angst in you. You did it like a man.
Appreciate that. It was a couple more years, I'd say, till about 24. I had my ups and downs until about 24. Trying to figure out what to eat. That was a scary time. But I always appreciate you had my back. Appreciate that.
That's what a father's job is.
Oh, well, this has been a lot of fun, huh? What do we miss? What should people know that we missed?
It's not important to be the winner. Don't be the loser. But winning is a satisfaction that's in yourself. And it's not over till it's over. And be proud of yourself. Be proud of your family. Be proud of where you came from. Help others. LA is much different than Milwaukee. I was walking into a Walgreens, and there was this guy sitting on the sidewalk. He had a cup of soda, a candy bar, and you could tell that was all he had in life. I handed him $5, and I said, hey man, how you doing? And he looked at that $5 like, are you kidding me? Are you really giving me this? And I said, do something smart with that, huh? And I'm sure he didn't, but I do hope that young man that was sitting on that sidewalk, I do hope at least he thought, I hope I did something smart with this. And maybe he didn't, because maybe he couldn't. Maybe the ability inside of him has been so squashed and torn away from him and ripped out, and mental illness and everything else that comes to a person like that. But take time to say hello to somebody in an elevator. Take time to pull over when somebody's broke down. Don't just drive by. I mean, that's rotten. People need help. Help them. Just doesn't take that much to say hello or pick up somebody's bag. Julie and I were at the airport in Burbank, and this beautiful woman with a baby, and Julie said to her, how old's your baby? And she said, 14 days.
Wow.
And then here comes the stuff around the belt, right? And she went and grabbed her daughter's car seat. And so Julie I said, do you have more baggage? She said, yeah, that's mine. I grabbed it. It was about 700 pounds. She said, that's mine. She had another one. She had 5 bags.
Wow.
A 14-day-old baby, and she was going to do all this by herself. Not a person helped. Not a person helped. Isn't that disgusting?
Mm-hmm.
Are we such a world that we're so locked into our phones that we can't notice a brand new mom that needs some help?
Mm.
So, hey world.
Be that person. And show your kids, because I remember that one time we were up north and somebody's truck was stuck at the bottom of a hill. You towed him out. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And he offered you money and you said, no, just pay it forward.
Yeah.
I remembered that. Or you pick up a hitchhiker to freak us out and show us it's okay to help strangers. Remember that?
Yep.
So, we watch. If you're a parent, or I think that all of us are leaders, that there's people in your life who are taking note. It could even just be your friends, and just showing that gives people courage to do the same. So, all right, Dad. Appreciate it. I love you.
I love you.
This has been fun, huh?
It has.
And rumor has it my dad's thinking of starting his own podcast. Is this true?
I have no idea or no plans to do it, but I know Tom will not let me off the hook until I do at least a half a dozen of them. So, Landscaping World, I'm sure you're going to hear from me.
There we go. Well, I love hearing your stories and your perspective on things. I really do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything you want to say signing off?
Yeah, the 2 words that are lost in the English language are "you're welcome." So if someone says thank you, make sure you say "you're welcome."
Mm-hmm. I like that. Well, this has been an honor. It's been a pleasure. This has been something I've really wanted to do a long time. I think it took about 1.5 years of, conversations here and there. We should do a podcast together. So, play the long game. All right. Well, sound good?
Perfect.
All right. As always, everybody, we're wishing you peace and blessings. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.